whenever these bans come down.
That's why you get rid of that Yone, is just to stop the Sejuani slam from coming through. It's a very strong red 1-2 combo to be able to pick up. You can fit it into a lot of different compositions as well. Do they get rid of the Rumble right here as RNG? No, the Nico actually going to go for the board. So there's now quite a lot of very strong pickups. The Varus, the Rumble, the Vi, all of those are the sort of things you can pick up. But the Rumble's usually the one that hits the ban table. It is going to be the pickup right here for LNG. So RNG, what is your response? Interesting. Okay.
That's a good turn. I do like this. Galio, you see one AP carry, can lock that one in. You can get pretty flexible if you want to be like the Shy and try and throw the Galio top into the Rumble matchup, which can be pretty favorable. But more importantly, you're putting a supportive solo lane next to the Nefiri. Always a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it works so well because you can move around with the Nefiri. If the Nefiri goes flying into the backline, you can use that ulti to be able to just keep it alive a little bit longer alongside that inbuilt survivability with the E. The thing that worries me slightly for RNG is that you're going to want to have a pretty aggressive bot lane to be able to play around, because you're not really going to be looking to play around this Galio. It's rare that we see top laners fully indexed over, so you're usually looking bot lane, but with the Kai'Sa taken off of the board, it's that best-in-class dive bot laner that's already gone. The remaining options kind of give you things like the Kalista, and then if you want a winning lane, maybe the MF. I think it would be a horrible idea in this matchup, especially into the Vi, but then again, I've seen teams slam it anyway.
Vi comes across. Interesting to see LNG commit to double AP solo lanes into Galio, as we might actually see that Galio go towards the top side into what is definitely the more favorable matchup between the two in the Rumble, with the Akali getting locked in. So Tangyuan picks the Akali and marks RNG's comp as a dive comp of their own. The Fury and Akali are going to be flying on forward towards LNG.
Exactly. That Kai'Sa ban getting more and more value the later into this draft we go. To be fair, LNG also have a decent backline access with the Vi, but at the moment they're very much going to be looking to play these fights out a lot slower. Over time, if you can drop an equalizer and they're just constantly be throwing the rocks with the Talia, you have great long-term damage. The thing you need to be careful about is that you don't have the Galio get very tanky or whatever the support is going to be, because at that point where they can just absorb all of that damage, you don't quite have as much backline access available to you as RNG do. What I'm looking for here for LNG, though, is you are going to need some safety here for LP, right? An Ezreal, a Xayah, something like that. Otherwise, that ADC is just going to die so quickly every time.
That's why you see the Ezreal ban come across from RNG. Also, love the Renata ban. With Nico already off the table, you're virtually denying Kalista ever coming through here as an aggressive bottom lane for LNG. Kind of the same vein as banning Yone takes away Sejuani. See if a support ban's what LNG want to come through with. You mentioned a lot of really good marksmen from range that are going to be pretty pivotal for either of these comps, but no, Rakan is a pretty good dive buddy, so that ban will go towards Niket. And now we got to figure out what marksmen are best to try and survive both of these backline access prone comps.
Gonna have that ADC as the last pickup right here. I like the Alistar here. It pretty much takes the Rel away as something you could potentially have been looking towards. The Rel works incredibly well alongside something like the Rumble.
Oh boy. Okay. I'm skeptical again. I am skeptical. You've picking Misfortune into Nefiri Akali LP.
Yeah. You know when we said, gonna need a mobile ADC with some survivability? Well, welcome to the absolute, complete, and utter opposite of that in the Misfortune. This champion has been losing so much recently. I think it's bad, in fact. I don't even think it's meh. I think it's a bad pick in this situation. But then again, RNG are a pretty bad team. I do think they've got a very interesting team composition for themselves, though. Like you said, lots of backline access and dive. But also, between the Alistar and the Galio right here, the Jhin is going to have a lot of space bought for him to be able to try lay down multiple rounds of those shots, what you really need on this Jhin.
I think the difference of these mid lane picks is why Jhin is a better pick for JiaQi versus LP, because Jhin really fit into that archetype you were painting Bloxer for either one of these comps, but the fact that you have a Talia in the mid lane for Haichao that is, you know, can deal damage if you get ahead, but isn't known for bringing home like big time damage numbers, is more setup, versus an Akali where you can always rely on just burst pure damage. That's why JiaQi lands on that Jhin that I think you pointed out well. Will play out pretty safe, but it's important to remember where both of these teams are at given the draft standings. RNG are still trying to put the pieces together to find their first series win of the Rumble stage, while LNG look pretty polished as a team, especially team fighting, skirmishing through their latest jungle acquisition as Xiaoxu looks to try and run Group Nirvana and send LNG to a play-in stage spot. Those are the stakes of this series, and it's time to kick it off with game number 1.
This is do or die right here for RNG. They are so close to being mathematically eliminated. They are practically eliminated by a loss right here. Yeah, and it takes a miracle, and it completely takes everything out of their own hands. They're reliant on things going right and wrong for other teams, and then they have to go perfect throughout the rest of the split, something they haven't been able to do. For LNG, they're still trying to fight to maybe have a little bit of a look towards those top 2 spots. I think that's unlikely, but building for split number 3 as well, so important.
All about momentum, especially for a team composed of so many young guys trying to find their spot in the LPL and maybe find a team that will like to build around them, like guys like Xiaoxu. A conversation we've had so much with a player like a milkyway in a very different trajectory is this is something you don't usually see at the level 1 early. We are having an 80 carry 1v1. JiaQi gets through an entire clip of the Jhin bullet, goes back into the brush, so he drops vision, gets the reload off, and he's just going to crit shot LP. He gets the barrier, but flashes right after him, and JiaQi punishing LP for just straight up disrespect.
Oh, I love to see it right there, JiaQi. Exactly what you want to be doing on the Jhin. You can't step to a Jhin as a misfortune at this point. And hey, if I hated the misfortune pick beforehand, oh boy, is it looking even worse now? One of the things you take the misfortune for, right, is being able to be a lane bully alongside your Nautilus, get involved in the bottom lane. Well, you've just given some extra gold and power over to your lane opponent. We'll see after this ad drops what exactly he was able to buy for himself. I imagine it was another longsword? Some boots, actually. Interesting, okay.
I'm never a hater on the sort of boot trust for Jhin because he's so mobile and needs kind of the space to play around those reload timers. So it's always just an advantage to get that extra move speed, especially knowing that LP will grab that from the strut passive once he ticks over to level 2, which despite the level 1 woes and LP having no summoners, Alistair is still a glorified melee minion at level 1 compared to the Nautilus, so they'll grab that level 2 priority as both junglers are going to clear down towards their bot sides.
I mean, the bot side is really where you're going to be wanting to get involved. You could potentially have looked top side, but the reason you pick up the Galio and then send it top, a lane he's not usually in, is just to be able to absorb the pressure that you're trying to lay down from the Rumble. Rumble's usually such a dominant lane bully. It really isn't the case right here into the Galio matchup, and the Galio also out-roams you, so it's going to be very interesting to see later on. For the minute, though, shouldn't be anything too explosive in that lane unless one of these top laners messes up quite badly, so it makes sense for these junglers to be moving down towards the far more explosive bot lane matchup.
They still got to wait on time for their mid laners to come with ultimates to really sync up the mid-jungle duo. Definitely a priority, at least on the LNG draft for sure. Xiaoxu and Haichao grabbing that Talia Vi combination, but this bottom lane ever volatile as you're talking about. Niket now having that headbutt available, likes his odds going into Zhuo, but despite the early woes of the 80 carries, it's still the LNG bottom lane standing pretty strong in these first couple of waves.
They're doing pretty well for themselves, and this is the thing, right? After you get that initial kill, you're pretty much fine. You just don't want to fall behind in terms of the CS, but you really don't need to be getting too aggressive at this point. Xiaoxu has managed to clear pretty quickly. We might see a little bit of a skirmish between these two junglers, something that usually the Neferi is going to be pretty happy to engage upon and try take. You can see Tangyuan actually going to move slightly faster.
Ooh. Xiaoxu, though, gets the Vault Breaker, smites away the Scuttle Crab. He has his bottom lane moving here first, and Tangyuan is already about half HP. The untargetable having to be used by milkyway to get away from the seismic shove is Niket has to commit his flash to get away from LP and Zhuo. So right on cue, the Xiaoxu difference proving plentiful with a Scuttle win. Oh my god, there's no way Tangyuan went in for that. All right, the Shroud will bail him out for now, but again, milkyway and Tangyuan have no shot in this 2v2, so they have to be really careful.
Those junglers have got their smites. Is here. Is going to be picked up right there for Milky Way. So it's just going to be 1-for-1 in terms of those Scuttle Crabs. Nothing too much lost, just a little bit of damage done between these lanes. Ooh.
Oop.
No, whoopsie. All fine, though. 30 seconds now until we're going to have the Infernal Drake spawning. Yeah, once again, looking to roam around, looking to get involved in other lanes. That's something that he's been really trying to do throughout this year. He has been an attempted spot of proactivity out of RNG. It hasn't really been working out for them, as very little has been. But it has been at least nice that he's not just sitting in the bottom lane, allowing the game to happen to him and the rest of his team. He's at least been trying to get things going.
Proactive to start moving towards the top side, signaling the swap was going to come through regardless, as we do see both bottom lanes head up towards that top lane. A lot of teleports being used for the solo lanes to try and answer these waves. Gotta think Haichao will take his first reset pretty soon here after getting the wave in, and all eyes gravitate towards that grub spawn that is coming soon. Both junglers don't have a lot of camps to play for, so they'll get their first resets in, and we'll see who wants to compete for the grubs the most and how many members they're willing to bring over towards that pit.
To be honest, it's a bit of an odd one when it comes to those grubs, because it's not necessarily either of these teams' biggest forte trying to take towers. You've not necessarily got any big split pushes overall. You can send the Talia to go split push into a side lane and rejoin with the Weaver's Wall, but it's not necessarily as big of a thing as we see a lot of these teams have, where they've got themselves more bruiser-based top laners who really like to have a couple grubs to be able to shred through these towers.
These top laners brawling it out, mostly knowing that they are not going to be they're not going to be featured at all on stage in the action of this game, because the grubs are spawning. Neither of them have teleports, so they're just willing to duke it out. We'll see if they play the good old-fashioned game of Ultimate Chicken. As the grubs have joined us on the rift. Xiaoxu beelining it over there, as there is very limited vision on that pit for LNG, but it's a bit of a ruse there for milkyway, as he's walked himself over to the Drake pit, and we'll see if Xiaoxu, right on cue, will start up with the bot priority. Question becomes, are RNG going to answer? Are they going to give up 3 grubs?
milkyway does not have level 6 yet, so isn't really going to be as strong in these fights right here. Those couple of grubs are going to go over. Actually, they were only able to grab 1, and they're going to have to back off from this one. This is really well played right here from milkyway to be able to get himself a little bit of vision down in the bottom side and know that he's got plenty of time to be able to roam up towards this top side of the map, stops a movement towards the feats from going over as well, and now can potentially move back down towards the bottom lane if he wants it, or can just continue pressuring around this top side for the minute. Both of these matchups will be just fine for milkyway.
Good to see RNG playing on their wave timers a lot better for those grubs too. Tangyuan gets to shove in. Even though Jin had to catch a wave, the value of that range with the deadly flourish means that JiaQi was always going to be a part of that grub play if he lands one big snare. So good to see some proactivity and cohesion in movement from RNG in that early game to grab that small advantage.
Something we really haven't been able to see from them so far. Part of the reason that they are one of our 0-2 teams, that they just haven't been able to play as a unit. They haven't been able to hands check in lane. None of the stages of the game have really been working out for them. It's sad to say, but for a team who's staring down the barrel of elimination from the rest of the year, from having their entire year end in May, yeah, it just hasn't been working out. But so far, so good in this game. 8 minutes in, very early on, but we'll see if they're going to be able to carry this one on. It's such an interesting situation where I really do prefer the draft that RNG have been able to put together for themselves. It just depends on if they are going to be able to execute on it here.
Maybe see an execution onto this dragon from Xiaoxu, who does have his ultimate online finally alongside milkyway, so eyes definitely have to drift towards these mid-jungle duos, syncing up to find single target kills. The kill yet not coming towards that dragon. Xiaoxu has some camps to clear out and maybe buying a bit of time for his bottom lane to get pushed in, Tangyuan to get pushed in. We'll see how competitive RNG want to be towards this dragon, because milkyway is also here on the spot side.
He is, but it should be Haichao who's going to have the priority on moving down. The Weaver's Wall, such a powerful tool to be able to roam around. One of the few champions who can out-roam an Akali if you play it out correctly. So also going to have to keep an eye on that mid lane, see where the priority is going to be there. For the minute, everybody going to be wandering around. Here's the engage.
Here we go, support starting out first. Niket does not have that unbreakable will, so it's easy to slice right through the Alistair. And it's Xiaoxu popping out, throwing down the first cease and desist. He's always proactive, he's always hungry for kills. And he's got LNG on the board.
There we go. And also, during that play, it was really nice to see Haichao immediately moved his way down, was trying to get involved in that play, was going to be able to just pop the Weaver's Wall, jump down if that fight didn't go so in the favor of LNG that it wasn't necessary. Really well played overall from this squad, and good to see the proactivity is still happening right here from Xiaofeng. That is now going to be one of the grubs, and the Drake picked up, Infernal Drake, pretty good to grab as a solo as well. LNG going to be happy with the way this early game's played out so far.
We're definitely not going to slow back down into a lull, because with that Dragon taking a bit more time to get going and getting slain, we're only about a minute away from that next spawn of grubs that LNG, if you thought the Dragon was a big priority for them, grabbing at least 2, if not trying to get all of these grubs, is going to be big to try and shut down that early win con from RNG. So not much time to kind of sit back, try and wait for items to come through for either of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a situation right here for LNG where your composition, now that you've got level 6s on a couple of your members, this is the point at which it really begins to come online. Yes, you want a couple of items under your belt for it to really do the damage, but the things you're reliant on for making these team fights work is very much going to be your Vi ulti and your Misfortune, or if you're going to get a good angle on it, your Talia ulti. All of those are going to be the key factors for trying to play out these team fights, and now that you've got them, you can start bullying RNG out of these objective fights. Try to use that poke that you've got with the Talia especially to be able to put yourself in a good spot before these objectives even start, and make it so it's not even going to have to be a fight around them.
Feels like a fight is inevitable, though. Especially the way RNG are posturing. Yeah, we got both junglers as well with first item completions along with the mid laners. Definitely favor Tangyuan going with that rocket belt early. The nature of the Akali can get a lot more value out of Tangyuan's broad damage. But speaking of damage, the pack is throwing down onto these grubs. Milkyway grabs and secures 3 with Zika and Zhuo here. Looks like we're just going to handshake 3 on each side unless Milkyway tries to sneak in at the end. Yep, comes right back for seconds, and seeing Xiaofeng smite away the second one means the third one is a guarantee for Milkyway and RNG, so they will have one might going forward in this opening match.
You can see JiaQi and Niket just moved a little bit quicker. Xiaofeng, what was that?
Niket flashing in to try and get Xiaofeng, but he feels fine and dandy and safe because he sets up a huge bullet time. JiaQi has to flash out. Can Milky Way save his AD carry? No, Xiaofeng finds the kill. He does sacrifice his life in tote. Xiaoxu using the hero's interest to join the party. Both global ultimates come online with the Dredgeline 6 for Zhuo into the seismic shell. Xiaohu, is he taking enough on this Galio to survive the burn? No, he is not. Zika gets the kill, feats of warfare, and a slight win on the skirmish over to LNG.
Alright, should have respected the Xiaofeng engage a little bit more. He missed the Vault Breaker and then immediately gets jumped, but still manages to turn that around into picking up the kill onto the Jhin. We'll see it again. I think he was trying to use that Vault Breaker to get out, to stop that play from happening. And instead, it ends up working out pretty dang well for LNG. And this early game, again, despite the fact that you miss out on that initial kill, LP getting a little bit too aggressive, it just, at this point where the proactivity is determining how you're going to be able to play these ones out, Xiaofeng is just being a little bit more aggressive so far. Let's watch it right here. Okay, no, he does try to go in, just misses it at that point, and I love the snap decision right there out of Niket to go, yep, got you, but then straight into the bullet time, and it's at this point where he still just grabs the kill. Really nice. This, though, this is a combo we're going to have to watch. It's the hook into the seismic shove. Really difficult to actually dodge it once the hook lands, because you get hooked in, stunned up from the Nautilus Q, and then there's nothing more that you can do to be able to get away unless you've maybe got yourself an insta-flash, and the timing's a little bit wrong. Later into the game as well, the amount of damage that comes through from that combo will be enough to one-tap practically all of the members of RNG.
Yeah, maybe only Galio will be able to survive Xiaoxu later, knowing how he'll itemize for those AP solo lanes. But that's a good combo to go back to. And the other combo that we were worried about that would have really just ripped that fight apart was, that was a good bullet time from LP. Good setup from LNG. If there are not flashes available for JiaQi and Milkyway, who both immediately burn them to survive, that bullet time gets an easy double kill for LP. So another little bit of a worry sign we had with the LNG draft. Not looking too bad in execution right now.
So far, it's been looking really quite well played out of LNG. RNG, loads of members sat together at the moment.
Drake coming up.
Spawning, yeah, very, very soon. And they've got full priority around this one. It was a reset that just came through from Xiaofeng. He's going to be able to get back onto the map. He's got himself that first completed item, some tier 2 boots as well. So could be in a good spot to try fight onto this one. But I think the reset time has just come through at a slightly inopportune moment. Although the Drake not really being burned through, he's going to get here.
And look at Xiaofeng. Ball breaker's over. The new sub in for LNG that has made them proactive, made them oriented to fight. But is this a fight they really want to take? They are getting flanked by Tangyuan. Zhuo throws the dredge line down, immediately regrets his mistake as he flashes out.
No.
And somehow LP steals the dragon. He didn't even use the bullet time, because guess what? The bullet time rakes across all of RNG. Xiaoxu goes to the hero's entrance. Tangyuan gets 0 value out of his perfect execution. LNG stays strong as 5, and it's to the death and demise of RNG. 2 kills already picked up, and they might be hunting for more here. I don't know if that turret will even protect JiaQi as he pulls out the curtain call. Desperately trying to find these kills on the backside, but milkyway, walking away from the safety of his turret, is gonna burn to Zika. And guess what, JiaQi? Your friend's fate is yours. I've seen the future. Here comes the 4-man demise of LNG. JiaQi's barrier will not save him. He won't even trade out Zika. It's perfection from LNG as they wipe the floor with RNG.
There we go. This is the LNG that we'd been hoping to see, that finally feels like it's been unlocked from Xiaofeng. And it's not just Xiaofeng. It feels like he has allowed the rest of this team to step up. Brilliant fight right there from Zika. Great aggression as well from LP.
How does LP get this dragon? I need to see it.
I think it's just an auto attack.
Oh my god, it's a bounce. It's a double tap.
Yeah, it's a double tap. There it is. Yep. Oh man. And the fact that you're then able to put down that bullet time across multiple members. The thing that kicks that fight off, though, is another really good seismic shove out of Haichao. Once you get that front line bopped in, yeah, you don't manage to insta-kill the Alistair, but you get to kill him pretty quickly. Just the pure raw damage they have. We jump out of that replay straight into another little bit of aggression here from LNG. They're going to be able to pick this themselves up, this Rift Herald, uncontested, and the map really does feel like it's falling apart here for RNG.
This game feels like it's falling apart. The gold lead's about to crest over about 3,000. You've got the BF sword on LP, who has been a part of nearly every kill for LNG by this point. The 2-item power spike of an IE Bloodthirster is so deadly in the mid-game. Zika as well on this B1 Rumble has the Liamdries done to deal with that tanky AP Galio. Just the items showing what we already saw from LNG in the fights. They are just locked in and looking to start this series off in winning ways.
These straight up front-to-back fights are just so advantageous for LNG. RNG really need to get themselves straight into the back line, but just don't feel like they're in the position to be able to do so. Mid lane, tier 1, gonna fall. Gonna be any further. In fact, the disengage just gonna come through right here from Xiaofeng. And it has been so good to see from him. Actually, does he manage it? Yeah.
I guess, you know, I'll give him the credit. If that turret wasn't getting smacked on by Zika, I think he would have dropped Shelly on the bot lane tier 1, but Zika's just strong enough to grab that on his own. So now turret's going the way of LNG. The little problems they had in the early game, not grabbing neutrals, not grabbing a lot of the map, winning one fight, does a hell of a lot to solve those problems.
Very much, and in the way they were conceding these early objectives a little bit, I wasn't too worried about LNG, right? Yeah, you give over 4 grubs, but that's really not the end of the world. We highlighted it earlier, right? Neither of these team compositions are just going to be mauling through turrets anyway. It helps a bit, but RNG so far have been really struggling to be able to step up to any of these towers at all. Top lane, bot lane, both of those have got the majority of their health left. It's only mid lane that's kind of been tickled, and even then, hasn't even gone down. Zhuo potentially looking for a fight top lane. He's going to spot out milkyway.
Yeah, they know he's on this top side. He walked past a ward. He will mark milkyway. He goes untargetable. Bullet time, not going to hit a lot on the milkyway. They turn the depth charge on the Tangyuan. He does get into the shroud, but the shroud won't save him. The seismic stuff still comes through for Haichao. Tangyuan will not be able to dash away from the cease and desist, the hard arm of the law, known as Xiaofeng. As Tangyuan falls, here comes the big rumble ult as well. Niket's too far forward up. Xiaoxu does get a big taunt. They get the curtain call out. JiaQi has enough space, but Xiaofeng says, I'm closing the distance. Flashing forward the vault breaker. Xiaofeng in the middle of 3 RNG members, and he still will not die. Dredge line down to Xiaoxu, and it's another kill set up by LNG. They can do no wrong with their new pivotal jungler in the starting role.
Zhao Feng is cracked at the moment, just playing with the confidence of a man with absolutely nothing to lose, and it is working out so well for LNG. They put their trust into this guy, and oh boy is he paying it back. Zia right here, just getting so aggressive. The bullet time doesn't necessarily do a huge amount of damage, but for once, I'm not too mad about it because it stops a lot of the engage out of the RNG members. They have to wait for the bullet time to end to then be able to jump up. It's this point, right, where you're just able to say, hey, yeah, the rest of my team's kind of backing off, but it doesn't matter. I am more than happy to go forwards. Zhao Feng just makes it work. And I especially like the confidence right here.
Love it.
JiaQi getting that ultimate off, if he actually lands that fourth shot, may well pick up a kill onto Zhuo. Maybe you can actually get somebody like Zika who's kind of squishy down. Instead, just go in, stop that ultimate exactly where it started. Be able to pick up a couple extra kills for your team, and now as we jump out of that replay is going to be that third dragon completed LNG on Soul Point.
This is like if the way they're taking these neutrals, it's like if your mom gave her credit card to you as you walked into a candy store.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just buying everything. I want everything. Otacon, yes. Dragons, yes. Hey, maybe we might pick off an Alistair here, get some burgers at the at the mall diner, as well as Niket nearly burns. Unbreakable Will, only thing saving him. Voracious Otacon as well is what is the prize for LNG, so he'll get that false life. And you thought Zhao Feng was playing with aggression before. Wait till he has an easy recall towards his base.
At this point, the game feels like it's just falling away from RNG. They're down by so much. 5,000 gold gonna be the advantage just 20 minutes into this game. There's not even a Baron, otherwise I think that would be the next bit of candy picked up by LNG. For now, they're just gonna push through this bottom side of the map. milkyway was looking for a flank, but just gets caught right here.
Does Zhao Feng just have a sixth sense? He had no vision in that brush, and he still is just bodying milkyway. Hashtag revenge of Zhao Feng for Rookie of the Split as he solos out milkyway's The Fury. It's all up LNG. This game is routed.
It's so important to be able to pick up this win right here for LNG to show that you have been revitalized. Yes, maybe this split isn't going to be the best for you, but you don't get eliminated for split number 3. You get to go again, and more than anything, these players are still trying to put good wins down onto their resume, show that they deserve to still be here in the top division of China. And what a performance it has been. I don't know how Zhao Feng knew. We'll have to look back. Surely we'll get a replay. There must have been a bit of vision.
In that brush. Yeah,
Otherwise, is he just, what, does he just know?
Is he just a Jedi? I don't know. Like there's some sixth sense going on.
Is he downloaded milkyway at this point? That was crazy.
And here's the thing about that is, okay, we'll get the replay. We'll see. Oh, the dogs!
Oh,
the dogs betray Milky Way!
No. Oh, that sucks. The Neferi, one of those champions where you've got to be very careful when stepping into a brush what ends up happening, where the dogs are if you don't get spotted out, because milkyway sat there thinking he's got a pretty nice flank off, you know, has that eclipse completed, maybe could try to one-tap LP, that could start off a winning fight for RNG, but nope, Zhao Feng immediately nips that in the bud, and now the push just continues on right here, top lane tier 2 gonna fall, and the response, not even a full tower in the bottom side. I don't know how low that tower is going to be, but Tangyuan sticks around. Is he just going to...
I don't know.
What is he doing? Take the tower.
Cancel
please.
the back.
The damage.
I don't hate this approach from RNG. They're not going for any plays into the false life unless it's, you know, like a clear 1v3. Zika, though, won't fall. He does have to be careful. The false life drops off in 7 seconds, and Zhao Feng does not care. He's diving under the inhibitor turret. You do not have a recall back to base for free. They do lose the false lives now. These are going to be kills given over to RNG if they're not careful, and Tangyuan capitalizes. Zhao Feng makes a critical mistake, gives one shutdown over, and there's a whole lot more standing gold in LNG's pockets. The bullet time for LP, trying to buy space for Haichao. The Milky Way Tangyuan have so many dashes to try and chase down these kills. Zhuo gonna survive, burning his own flash, and luckily for LNG, it'll only be their jungler paying the Pied Piper.
Like you said, lots of dashes available to RNG, but that Unraveled Earth from Haichao, so impactful in just stopping the ability for these RNG members to actually chase everybody down. I'm still a little bit baffled as to why Tangyuan didn't take that bot lane tower. It would have been a nice little bit of objective bounty. Maybe knew that LNG were going to stick around for too long. Knew he needed to be involved in that play. Not entirely sure. Still, though, like you said, was going to be a little bit of a shutdown right there onto Xiaoxu. And you don't really get too much out of having that Atacon. You don't get any false lives come through. You don't give over a ton of gold either. So pretty neutral play overall. The more important thing right here going to be this Drake. WeiWei needs to be careful here. If he goes down, that's going to be this Hextech Soul going over to LNG uncontested.
That's a good point to make, Bloxer. Then in all the hectic skirmishing we've seen, LNG are on that Hextech Soul point. In 30 seconds, they grab arguably the best soul for them to really try and push this game over the edge. Baron coming up in 30 seconds, so this is a really critical juncture for LNG to close the door on this game because RNG, they have to respond to both sides of the map, and their base potentially being threatened as LP just has all the time in the world to hit on this inhibitor turret. RNG are getting spread so thin.
Oh, yeah. I love it. This is good map play from them right here. Get that push going through. Still got more than enough time to be able to work back down to the rest of your team. You also walk through a lot of your jungle, so you see that you're not getting flanked at the moment here. LNG set up pretty well for this. And these slow fights, this is where the Talia can really shine.
Watch out for Tangyuan. He's doing a very deep flame. Look at Zika. He sniffs it out. He knows it's coming. Weaver's Wall down. Does try and cut off some of RNG as they are kind of trapped in the pit. JiaQi will come across. The Weaver's Wall drops. Nobody really sectioned off too harshly, but they're waiting for Tangyuan to go in. Dashes in. Heroes enters with Xiaoxu. Finds absolutely nobody. Oh. The bullet time this time comes across with the rumble. That's the wombo LNG drafted for, and they're just popping every single member of RNG. What a clean, dominating start to this series. As LNG eyes a 1-0 lead, looking for a spot in the play-in tournament.
It's going to be 30 seconds until the majority of pickups are available for RNG. I don't know if this is going to be the full end. It might well be. Yes, you managed to grab the Drake accidentally in and amongst everything that happens here, but going to be a more than worthwhile trade for the base of your opponents. LNG revitalized, looking so much better. 13 seconds now until JiaQi's going to be up and available. Same for Zhao and Milkyway. I think they're just about going to be able to survive. Don't throw things away, LNG. Yeah. Back off. Yeah,
Smart
just
approach.
Fight for another day. It's all good.
And the fight is coming tomorrow. Another day is tomorrow, or maybe even the same day, because Baron is up. They'll take the resets, cash in a ton of gold. Gotta think there's some huge items coming through as I say that. LP grabs a Mortal Reminder.
Yeah.
But let's take a replay back through this fight, Bloxer, and how well LNG respond to the jump in from RNG.
I hate the MF, but this is a gorgeous ulti, exactly where it needs to be. Lands across these key members. Yeah, it's mainly onto the tanky members, but the second that the front line falls, the chase comes through. And so far, the hooks have just been clean.
Oh!
Don't know what happened right there to Niket, but that should turn straight into the Baron. I gotta be honest, Zhuo on these hooks has been so clean all game.
Baron being started as you called out. Milkyway's here with Tangyuan. They're going to have the TP coming across for Xiaoxu. So he will be able to join, but this is still a 4v5 for the team that is very, very far behind. And they have 0 eyes on this Baron. So Milkyway has no idea how low the Baron is. They can't even use the curtain call to get close enough because the bullet time lands this time onto Milkyway. We had some issues with the misfortune, but LP shuts us up in an instant with another clutch bullet time, and Tangyuan can't even rescue a kill. Baron not needed. There's your final fight. There's your cherry on top. One of the cleanest games from LNG, not all split, but maybe all darn year.
Absolutely it is. They have just dismantled RNG. It starts badly. They give a kill over to JiaQi, and from that moment on, LNG, they get themselves straight into this game. Look at him. He's trolling. He's having a good time. Hey, why not? He has completely turned the fortunes of LNG around. This team looking so much better. And it's not going to be the final nail in the coffin right here for RNG, but it is dang close.
It is a game that they need to adopt the goldfish memory on. Because outside of a good movement towards grubs, it was all LNG, and how nice does that feel for a guy like Xiaoxu knowing that, hey, he was like him and Milkyway, he was always competing, felt like second fiddle maybe for roster spots. Yeah. When we talk about these next up-and-coming junglers, we talked about the Rookie of the Split Award back in 2024, comes so close to winning it, has to go as a substitute, goes back to the LDL, but now he's returned to the LPL. and turned around a franchise that, at the top of the show, you said, Bloxer, you, me, a lot of people here at the official LPL English broadcast thought we're going to be the shoe-in for no split 3 action. And we're one game away from being dead wrong.
Exactly. They've managed to turn this around in such a great way. A win right here would put LNG at 3-2. That might be, depending on how EDG end up doing, enough to potentially get themselves into those top 2 spots. And boy, oh boy, would I love to see that. I want to see how good Xiaoxu can look versus some of these bottom teams from Group Ascend. Because like you said, if you're an NIP, an FPX, Undertalk, one of those sorts of squads, and you're looking at the way that LNG are playing now, ooh, I don't know how much you favor yourselves in that matchup.
But before we get too far out of scope here, it is important to point out, as much love as we're getting towards Xiaoxu, everybody was on top of their game. You pointed out, Bloxer, Zhuo, Nautilus had a lot of good depth charges. LP on this misfortune got a lot of valuable bullet times. Zika was super far ahead and accelerated. Even Haichao with some clutch seismic shoves. This was as big of a team win as it feels like for LNG that they've had all year long.
Absolutely. I feel like this is going to be one of those games where once we get to see the damage graph at the end, you're going to be surprised by just how much damage this Talia has done, but the threaded volleys were landing the whole time, was constantly getting those good seismic shove combos off alongside Zhuo. I don't think I could look towards a single member here from LNG and go, yeah, you were dead weight, you were not contributing towards this win. Every single person was able to step up in their own ways, and I think that's incredibly impressive, especially on this kind of composition where you are squishy and a little bit immobile for the most part, and you're into an Ephirian and a Kali. We were expecting them to just get chased around, caught out, but I think the way that LNG played this one out just was protecting these carries in such a good way. There's also, in part, you know, RNG, not necessarily a good team, weren't able to execute onto their composition particularly well. But, hey, I would love to give LNG their flowers rather than tear down RNG.
That's the approach that we like to go here. We'll see if we can get the post-game coming through here pretty soon. But we can look forward to this Game 2 draft here and talk about maybe, you know, the fearless aspects of this Game 2. We do lose Vi, we do lose Nefiri. Those are two of the big junglers we talk about, and we didn't see a ton of the like super high priority other solo lanes or AD carries come out of this matchup outside of Rumble. So there still is a lot of quality B1 picks for RNG to look towards, and curious where your head's at with that approach, knowing I know it's a hard ask where this team is compositionally. Where do you want to grant that B1 as we do get to post game? But these graphics just tell the story that we've already been telling you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way that LP was able to just shred through people. I'm surprised by how little damage Haichao did. To be fair, we never really got late enough into the game for him to get a lot of items. That probably contributes. Between Zika and LP, you didn't need more damage. You were absolutely fine with that one. Xiaoxu is just so much of this team, right? He's got incredibly high kill participation, decent damage considering the fact that he's playing the Vi, and is just able to take nearly 50% of his team's damage. Survives for the majority of these fights as well. That's crazy.
Crazy indeed. Just so fun to see for LNG, especially playing in their home arena right now. They have been really hard to knock down in Group Nirvana. As we'll go back through the highlights, and I think that it is really just the Xiaoxu catalyst for this team in every one of these fights. And it started out with this pretty awesome pick on a JiaQi when he actually ends up getting caught in a vault breaker that doesn't land.
Every single member of LNG looks better than they did previously before this guy arrived, right? When we're saying, hey, LNG looked like the team that we were expecting to just not go anywhere, immediately be eliminated, that's not this LNG. This is the LNG that had WeiWei, had Photic, you know, that squad, I'm sorry, that was bad. That was a very, very bad League of Legends squad. This one looking way better, but it's everybody stepping up. We'd seen some bad performances from Zika, and then all of a sudden in this game, absolutely brilliant. Was able to land a ton of these key equalizers, was able to step up in a lot of these situations that I'm surprised about, right? You've got a very aggressive composition out of RNG, but they never got it online, so even your Rumble, who sometimes ends up just putting equalizers down, but not quite able to do a lot of damage in big team fights, was able to get in melee range, do all of the damage that this champion can do. Just really well executed from everybody. I genuinely don't know who I'd be giving MVP to.
Yeah, I'm totally biased. I'm also just kind of falling completely. I guess I don't want to call it in love. That's what falling in love, but like very much on the, I'll say the hype train, the Xiaoxu hype train. So my heart is always going to lean towards there. But yeah, again, I say this sometimes with some of the dominating games we get with how many games we're getting in the Rumble stage. There are games where it just feels like, hey, if we could, why can't we just give player of the game to the team as a whole? This game really feels like that because everybody executed their assignments from draft in this one for LNG.
I think if I were to give out my MVP for this game, it would probably go to Zhuo. I think that him and Xiaofeng working together has been a big part of why this team's been able to turn things around. Because just being a really good jungler is only part of the story. In a lot of these situations, you need your support to be able to give you that extra bit of CC, that extra bit of follow-up on your engages, especially with the Vi. If you go flying into the backline and have nobody come join you, that's really tricky to try to play out. But we saw Zhuo really pairing up well with Xiaofeng, was also able to get a lot of combos off with Haichao. I really enjoyed the way that he was playing out that game.
We'll see who ends up with that player of the game, but the sentiment definitely around LNG. Maybe Xiaofeng is one of those proverbial floor raisers that you always really look to find when building these tier 1 level rosters in leagues like the LPL. If you can get a floor raiser to get the best out of your teammates, arguably the most integral role you can find on a team composition. So Xiaofeng, so far in Group Nirvana, playing that role.
Yeah.
And the more they keep winning, we're going to have to start having discussions of how high can he really raise some of these other LNG players. Yeah. And the other question becomes, how many other LPL teams are paying attention to what this guy's doing?
Yeah. Surely, if you are one of the squads right now sat in the bottom of Group Ascent who's having some jungle issues, maybe you start thinking, right? Hey, can this dude do for our team what he's been able to do for LNG? It is going to be Zhuo as the player of the game. He was just so clean with following up on everybody else's engages and making his own. Just a really impressive game. I'm happy with that one.
Happy with that one. LNG fans are happier with how their team has looked as they are on the brink of getting 3 wins in Group Nirvana, potentially threatening for one of those play-in spots. But the people that I am most happy about have to be all of you guys watching at home and helping us on the unofficial LPL English broadcast, especially our Coffee supporters. We're extremely grateful to our Coffee and YouTube subscribers who help level up the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent like myself and Bloxer and the content creators behind the scenes that bring so much fun stuff out for you guys. Subscribe to our Coffee, linked in chat, to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. So make sure to, glance at the Coffee links if we appreciate anybody that subscribes on YouTube or joins our Coffee fandom. But we've still got a whole lot more League of Legends coming and potentially testing myself and Bloxer's League of Legends knowledge on the other side of this intermission. We'll bring RNG LNG Game 2 to you guys in just a few.